Over the past few weeks, there's been a TV series running on Channel 4 here in the UK called Benefit Street. And this program was clearly intended to help demonize people claiming social security benefits and therefore help to justify the government's policy of welfare cuts. Now, there is a growing underclass in the UK, and there's no doubt that some of those people have no motivation to work and prefer to live off state benefits instead. But those people are in the minority. The vast majority of benefit claimants do want to work and actually hate being on benefits. They have higher aspirations than that. But programs like Benefit Street and large sections of the mainstream media misrepresent the situation and sensationalize the relatively rare cases of people committing serious benefit fraud. So far, the government's policy of welfare cuts has adversely affected the lives of some of the poorest and most vulnerable people in society. Tens of thousands of people have been made homeless. Hundreds of thousands of people have been forced to live off food collected from food banks. And many people, even disabled people and cancer sufferers, have been forced to work full time for their benefits at less than minimum wage. Many people have actually died as a direct result of these benefit cuts. And while all this is going on, the government continues to allow mega rich corporations like Google, Amazon, and Starbucks to get away with paying no tax in the UK. The government also allows multi-billionaire non-domicile businessmen to also pay no tax in the UK. And we all know the previous government bailed out the greedy banks who caused the financial crash with billions of pounds of taxpayers' money. And to this day, bank bosses continue to pay out millions of pounds in bonuses at the taxpayers' expense. And the current government has done nothing to address this. In fact, they've done everything in their power to facilitate and even aid its continuation. What we have in the UK today is a corporate parliament, a parliament that is full of people who have a vested interest in the corporate world and who relentlessly push through policies designed to benefit the richest people in society at the expense of everyone else. Many MPs themselves, like Work and Pension Secretary Ian Duncan Smith, shamelessly claim second homes and outrageous expenses paid for by the taxpayer. Ian Duncan Smith is a millionaire. He has a high-paid government job. He also gets income from his private business dealings. He lives in a mansion. He has a second home paid for by the taxpayer. He claims expenses for food, clothes, laundry, and many other things, all paid for by us, the taxpayer. He once tried to claim £39 for a breakfast and make us pay for it. All right. He also was at the center of the infamous Betsygate scandal when it was revealed that he'd been using taxpayers' money to pay his wife a wage for doing nothing. All right. So, and this is the man. This is the man who's responsible for cutting welfare for the poorest people in society and trying to demonize people who claim state benefits. The level of hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. The amount of corruption at the top levels of the political system is just absolutely insane. And I'm only just scratching the surface with the stuff I'm saying here. This ain't even the tip of the iceberg. The vast majority of benefit scroungers and benefit cheats in this country are members of parliament. The biggest tax dodgers in this country are giant corporations and mega rich businessmen. The overwhelming majority of corruption in this country takes place at the highest levels of society, not at the lowest levels of society. But somehow, the only people who ever get punished are poor people. The richest and most powerful people in society almost never get punished for corruption, even when they're caught red-handed. And when we have tax increases and social reform programs, the richest people almost never suffer. In fact, they usually benefit from it. And it seems obvious that these policies are designed for exactly that purpose, to benefit the rich. But while all this is going on, we do have a relatively small but growing number of poor people who have no motivation to work, and they're just content to live off social security benefits. Some of these people even go as far as making fraudulent claims to increase their benefit payout. Now, I'm not here to defend the actions of these people. I'm just here to put it in perspective and get to the root of the problem. And, there's pretty much a witch hunt for these type of people right now, led by the government and large sections of the media. But the fact is, these so-called benefit scroungers and cheats are absolute saints compared to many of the people who actually run the country. MPs like Ian Duncan Smith, corporations and billionaire businessmen. This needs to be fully understood. And if we're going to stop the growth of the underclass in Britain, we need to understand how it got there in the first place. Because in any society, you're naturally going to have people who are good at different things. Not everyone can be a doctor. Not everyone can be a rocket scientist. Not everyone can be a football player. Not everyone can be a teacher. Not everyone can be a musician. Not everyone can be successful in academia. Some people are good with books. Other people are good with their hands. People have natural aptitudes for different things. So therefore, what you need is a jobs market which caters for that. But what has happened in the UK over the past 40 years is the manufacturing industry has been deliberately and systematically destroyed. There used to be a huge coal mining industry in the UK, car manufacturing, steel manufacturing, shipbuilding, even local farming. Millions of working class people used to be employed in those industries. And not only did those industries provide jobs, they allowed people to develop practical and specialist skills. So they also had the opportunity to work freelance or start their own businesses if they chose to. These industries offered people career opportunities, jobs they could do with pride and dignity. Now, don't get me wrong, most of these jobs involved a lot of hard labor, and some of them were pretty dangerous. But as technology has improved over the past 40 years, those jobs would have become safer and safer. But now those industries have all been wiped out, or pretty much been wiped out. The people who would have done those jobs previously now have far fewer opportunities to gain the type of employment which suits their natural abilities. Now these people are being forced to take dead-end jobs in supermarkets and fast food restaurants, working for massive corporations in jobs that have extremely limited career prospects. They're being forced to take jobs which they don't have any talent for, have no interest in, and often find degraded. And this is why you have some poor people who are totally apathetic towards work. They have no motivation because many of them don't see a place for themselves in the job market. They feel like they don't fit in anywhere. 50 years ago, most of these people would have left school and gone straight into the mining industry or the car manufacturing industry or shipbuilding because that's what their dad did. That's what their brothers did. That's what their uncles did. And by the time a lot of these people were just 30 years old, most of them would have owned their own homes. In fact, the coal industry used to build homes specifically for its workers. But all that's gone now. So those people who are academically challenged have far fewer opportunities to do a job that they're actually good at or they actually enjoy. They've got virtually no opportunity to have a career or do a job that would allow them to buy their own home. Many of these people are destined to be working dead-end jobs, 48 hours a week, earning a pittance, living hand to mouth, barely making ends meet, and be renting a room in a house share for the rest of their lives. Right? So it's no wonder that some of these people prefer to be on social security benefits and try and obtain a council home fraudulently. Because, for one, there's a chronic shortage of affordable housing in this country. For those of you in the United States, a council home, what we call a council home in here in the UK, is what you would call government housing. All right, just to clarify that. So many people will never be able to afford to get on the property ladder because there's a serious shortage of affordable homes, and the private house market is ridiculous. You know, house prices in the UK are obscene. So a lot of these people will be forced to rent a room in a house share for the rest of their lives. And one of the main reasons why there's such a massive shortage of affordable homes in the UK is because former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher sold off around 40% of council homes during the 1980s. And none of the subsequent governments have made any real effort to replace those homes. And a lot of incredibly rich people have actually benefited from that council house sell-off because they were able to go straight in and buy dozens of council homes all in one go, of ex-council homes, all in one go at incredibly cheap prices. And today, at least a third of those ex-council homes are owned by rich landlords. In fact, Margaret Thatcher's own friends, one of Margaret Thatcher's own friends owns 40. This is just one guy. He owns 40 ex-council homes, which shows you that this whole thing was just set up by Margaret Thatcher so her rich friends could line their pockets at the expense of poor people. And today, we have a so-called housing crisis with a lack of affordable homes, but it's only a crisis for poor people. Because a lot of rich people are benefiting massively from the housing crisis. It's in their best interests to keep the housing crisis going. And this is why the government, or this is why no government since the Thatcher government has made any serious effort to address the housing crisis. Because it's a corporate parliament which caters first and foremost to the richest people in society. Now, some people might say, well, we have to keep rich people happy because they're the ones driving the economy and providing the jobs. And at this point in time, that might be true to some extent. But when we had a manufacturing industry in the UK, it was actually the working class people who were driving the economy and providing the jobs. The working class people had a tremendous amount of economic power and they were able to call the shots. And that's why the coal mining industry was deliberately destroyed by Margaret Thatcher, because the wealthy elite did not like the amount of economic power the coal miners had. So Thatcher was given the task of destroying the mining industry and transferring the economic power away from the working class and back into the hands of the wealthy elite. And to this day, they still have economic power. They still have all the economic power and they want to keep it. They don't want to give it back to us. And until that dynamic changes, social deprivation and social dysfunction will continue to grow and continue to be a problem. It's no use voting for a different political party trying to change things because the political system is rigged and the corruption is so endemic across the entire political spectrum. I'm not saying all politicians are working in the interest of the rich. They're not. But the key politicians at the highest levels of politics are. And at the end of the day, they're the ones who call the shots. And the only way we can change things, the way things are going at the moment, will be to remove the political hierarchy and have a complete overhaul of the entire political system. That's the only way that we could change the way society is structured for the better and make it a more fair society, a society which provides more opportunities for people, careers, affordable housing, etc., etc. The only way we could get that is to remove the political hierarchy and have a complete overhaul of the entire political system. Now, is that possible? Yeah, it's possible. But it would take a great deal of effort from a great deal of people over a great deal of time. And it would also take a great deal longer for me to explain. So I'll save that for another video. So yeah, that's what I have to say about Benefit Street and these so-called benefit cheats. They are a symptom of the problem, not a cause. The cause of the problem is the way the country is being run and the way that there is a clear agenda by many of the wealthy elite in this country and the political hierarchy. There is an agenda by them to make sure that the political power stays out of the hands of working class people and firmly in the hands of themselves. That's what's going on. And until that changes, nothing is going to change for the better for the average working class person, and certainly the underclass. The underclass is going to continue to grow until the dynamic of political power and economic power changes. So it is what it is. I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a comment below. My name's Hatman. I'm out.